I think it's appropriate that we are now playing the music of Harris Heller, which we do have permission. We do have permission from Harris Heller and Senpai Records. We're not breaking any laws. We can't break any laws because we actually have a lawyer in the studio right now. I have muted them so that we could make this a nice smooth transition. So if I could have both Pip and Michael unmute themselves, that would be awesome. There we go. Perfect. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Shared Desk. This is the soft opening right here. Of course, you know me. You can call me T. You can call me Twitch Dad. You can call me T Monster. But right next to me is Pip Valentine.
I'm in the other room.
She's in the other room.
A world away.
Yes. Now, the guy underneath us, that is Michael Ventrilla. And Michael, just say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
There
Great
we go.
to be here.
Yeah. If Mike seems familiar to you, it's because Michael and I just did a brief interview show with the Pocono Liars Club. That is a writers group that Michael is affiliated with. Mike, what can you tell us about the Pocono Liars Club?
I started that probably about 10 years ago now because I thought I had been going to the Philadelphia Liars Club that Jonathan Mayberry used to run before he moved to the West Coast, and I wanted a local group up in the Poconos, and I got permission from the Philadelphia Liars Club to call ourselves the Liars Club. We're also associated with the Writers Coffee Shop, as they call it. We meet once a month and we do interviews online, and you can go to our webpage at poconoliarsclub.wordpress.com and watch all the videos of all the interviews we've done, including the one with T.
Yeah. If anybody was curious, it was on social media for writers and putting together plans, that sort of thing. So what we're going to do is we are going to be segueing slowly into the Shared Desk episode 107. Gonna make want to lay down a few rules though, or maybe just talk a little bit. This is going to probably be the most political I think this particular podcast is ever going to get. I can't think of any other time, Pip. Can you think of any other time that we've really delved into politics?
No, just as an aside from time to time.
As an aside, as a quick aside, but that's about it. But
a glancing blow, if you will.
Yeah, a glancing blow, if you will. And in all fairness, the reason why we're delving into politics is because politics kind of stepped into our world. It stepped into the world of publishing, and I will be talking about all three of us will be talking about that. But that was why we brought Michael into the picture, because along with being an author we have personally worked with the Tales from the Archives, Michael is also a practicing attorney. So you've heard us sometimes say things like, "I'm not a lawyer." And so we can't. Now I can say I'm not a lawyer, but we got one on Mike. So just in case, Mike can be like, whoa, or be like, well, yeah, you're right. So either way, it'll work out.
I want to know. I want to hear from Mike about what he does as a lawyer, because I know you are a lawyer. But how long have you been? What's your sort of area of practice? Because my uncle back in New Zealand was a lawyer. So.
Well, I graduated in '84 and passed the bar in '85 up in Boston. My specialty was always constitutional law, and I ended up teaching at the college level. I taught at Bunker Hill Community College up in Boston for a while, and then moved down here to Pennsylvania and taught at a community college down here. Right now.
I'm going to stop you there. Because I want you to actually say that in your bio. I want that on the actual podcast itself. DJ 80, thank you very much for that host. I certainly do appreciate it. So let's go on ahead, and so as you all know, because of the weirdness that has been, and that could be a topic for another time if Michael ever wants to come back here, with the weirdness of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, we can't play our royalty-free music for the Shared Desk. So what we're doing is
you mean the one we bought and paid for?
Exactly. What we're going to do is we're just going to go on ahead and we're going to do the opening as we normally do it, with the intros and everything, and then in post we'll be adding in the theme and all that stuff that Pip does so well.
So should we dance while that happens?
No, we're not going to do that. No, we're not going to do that, because I've seen Michael dance and I'd rather not have that on here. All right. So, Pip, introduce the show in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Shared Desk, episode 107.
Yes, you are listening to the Shared Desk, episode 107. I am your host, T. Morris, and over to my right.
I'm me, Pip Valentine.
And special guest, sign on in.
Hi, I'm Michael A. Ventrella.
Now, as you all know, with the Shared Desk, we have always been trying to keep as many of our political beliefs out of the oeuvre of the Shared Desk. We want this to be a place where it is politics free and where we can talk about the writerly things that we talk about as writers. However, in recent events, something has been coming up again and again and again in the news that directly affects writers, and that is why we brought in Michael A. Ventrella. Now, you might recognize the name Michael A. Ventrella from Tales from the Archives. Michael, would you please tell us about your experience with Tales from the Archives in brief?
Well, as a fan of the series, I was very happy when you guys asked me to write a story in the series, so I wrote one. And you did, I read it off and you added to it and made it listenable. But it was
very
great,
humble.
you know, and I got to tell you, it inspired me to write a steampunk novel of my own, not in your world, of course. Pip gave me a really nice little blurb for the back. So I'm thrilled that you guys invited me. Thank you.
That book is called?
Big Stick.
He has it
Teddy
there!
Roosevelt. Yes, I'm always ready. It's Teddy Roosevelt. I thought it'd be so great to have Teddy Roosevelt in a steampunk adventure. So I have Teddy Roosevelt and Mark Twain and Harriet Tubman and all kind of people at the time. It's a lot of fun. I hope it's a lot of fun anyway.
But there's another book, and it's specific to why we brought you onto the Shared Desk. What is the other book that you've written as the prolific author that you are?
Well, sales have been going up this last couple months for some reason. It's called How to Argue the Constitution with a Conservative.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and it's a short little book, but it goes through the Constitution very briefly, but gives you enough information that if you read it, you'll know more than 95% of the population, including certain presidents I can name. It has artwork by Darren Bell, who is a Pulitzer Prize-winning cartoonist, and so I was thrilled when he actually won the Pulitzer Prize like a week before we were about to publish it, so we had to rush and get that onto the cover.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh, what can you ask for?
That is awesome. Okay.
So,
So that was
so
very nice.
just so that everyone is clear, can you list your achievements, your references for writing a book about the Constitution?
Certainly. Well,
What
I
makes you the
graduated.
expert?
I'm an old guy. I graduated in '84 up in Boston, and then I ended up teaching constitutional law and American history and American politics at Bunker Hill Community College up in Boston. Later moved down here to Pennsylvania, where I taught at another community college. But now I'm just basically a criminal defense attorney with Fisher and Fisher, which is one of the big firms down here. So I do a lot of arguing about the law in court, of course, and I've argued in front of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and Superior Courts and such. But I still specialize in Constitution law. That's what I did in law school. That's what I followed, and that's why I wrote the book.
So,
I feel like a box should be delivered to Congress, like
That'd be nice.
ASAP, like just a big box for everybody.
It's meant to be a fun book. It's meant to give you the background while still being snarky and entertaining. You know,
we might have to pick up a copy of this book, Pip, because
Yes, yes.
because you know how I feel. So my qualifications in talking about, and I've gotten into this in the past week with people on social media. Shocker that, where they've asked me, what are your qualifications as a gamer and as a science fiction fantasy author? And I go, well, before I became a fantasy author and before I became a science fiction author, an award-winning science fiction fantasy author with my wife, and a content creator. I mean, I was content creating before it was cool. I'm a communications professional. That was my degree from James Madison University. I too, like Michael, I am old. Turns out I didn't realize this. Michael's got 3 years on me because I graduated in '87. I graduated in '92, so he's got quite a few years on me. But as a comms professional, one of the options I had, and I don't think I've ever told Michael this story. I was really struggling. I was really struggling to pass communications law, which was a 100 level course. But as an elective chat, I took a 400 level course where all we did was study the First Amendment for an entire semester. I was acing that. And the people in charge of the comms department said, well, you really do need to pass the basics law and we don't understand why you're doing great in a 400 level course, but you can't pass the 100 level course. So just do us a favor, don't go into communications law. But I have always nurtured a passion for the First Amendment. Now, let us have a reading of the First Amendment from the least qualified person in the room right now. the woman holding the green card, Pip Valentine. Pip, would you please
Well, I would like to say that I am the least qualified. However, if I get around to doing this thing called citizenship, I presume that I might have to learn about it. So this is a good primer for me.
Yes.
Okay. I've got to say, as I said before, it's short. It's not as big as I thought it would be. So here we go. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
That's it. Nice and simple. One of the reasons it's simple is because that's much easier to get people to pass it. It's all about politics after all.
Right.
If they had gone to a lot of
Right.
detail, there would have been arguments. It's easier for people to say, yes, I agree with freedom of speech, but then you start talking about the details and they argue. So that's one of the reasons our Constitution is so short.
So
Keep it simple, stupid.
right.
Yes.
Now, the question also probably remains on many a mind here, especially those listening to Shared Desk. Why are we talking about the First Amendment? Allow me to present Exhibit A. I believe he is a freshman. He is a freshman in the Senate. Okay, and I'm going to do my best. I cannot speak for the other lawyer in the room, but I will do my best to not use particular words to describe this individual. But freshman senator from the great state of Missouri, Josh Hawley, Hawley, a constitutional lawyer, so he claims, and he is a constitutional lawyer. That's what makes
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he says it in his Twitter bio, but this is where it really bugs me. Now, if you're curious, who's Joshua Hawley? He is a Republican U.S. senator, freshman senator. But what a lot of people know him for is appropriating and giving the fist of power to the variety of enthusiasts, shall we say, that showed up recently at the steps of Capitol of the Capitol building and then proceeded to storm the Capitol building. Some people call them protesters. Some people call them Trump supporters. I call them domestic terrorists, but that's beside the point.
Well, he was also the Attorney General.
Yes, he was also the Attorney General for the great state of Missouri. Now, here's the thing that bugs me. He's the guy that basically egged on the domestic terrorists that stormed the steps of the Capitol building. And if you have problems with me referring to the folks as domestic terrorists, 703-791-1701, or you can write me at t@tmorris.com. F you very much. Now, getting back to the point at hand, this constitutional lawyer lost a lucrative book deal with Simon & Schuster. They were going to be publishing probably his particular opinions about conservative voices, conservatism, that sort of thing. But in light of what happened, and in light of his actions and his comments of the insurrection done by the domestic terrorists on Capitol Hill, he lost that book contract. This was his statement on Twitter. My statement on the woke mob at Simon & Schuster. This could not be more Orwellian. Keep in mind, this is a constitutional lawyer. Simon & Schuster is canceling my contract because I was representing my constituents, leading a debate on the Senate floor on voter integrity, which they have now decided to redefine as sedition. Let me be clear, this is not just a contract dispute. It is a direct assault on the First Amendment. Allow me to read that one more time. Let me be clear, this is not a contract dispute. It's a direct assault on the First Amendment. Only approved speech can now be published. This is the left looking to cancel everyone they don't approve of. I will fight this cancel culture with everything I have. We'll see you in court. Where to unpack this? I turn to Exhibit B, our lawyer in residence, Michael A. Ventrilla. Michael, your thoughts.
There's too much here to unpack. There's too many things you doesn't understand. Just because you get a law degree doesn't mean you're studying law. Has more to do with the work involved. It wasn't tremendously difficult, I'll be honest. There was just so much of it, and if you got behind, you couldn't catch up. And so there was a tremendous amount of work. You had to constantly be reading. You had no time to go to work. I couldn't even do a job when I was in law school because I was constantly reading laws. But it doesn't mean you have to be smart. You have to just regurgitate the stuff back. That's what all schools are like. You know what I mean? So just because you get a degree doesn't mean you really caught anything. It means you learned enough to pass a bar exam. So there are a lot of dumb lawyers out there. I got to be honest with you. There really are. And the problem with certain conservative lawyers, and actually I'll say some liberal lawyers too, is they read the Constitution to what they want it to mean and ignore what the law actually says. For instance, there are things that I wished the law said, but it doesn't. And I'm not going to be dishonest about it. There are things the courts have said that I disagree with completely, but that's the law. And I can't deny that's the law. What this guy is doing is denying the law. He wants it to be one way and it's not. So he's trying to pretend it isn't, but that's a very Trumpian thing to do. If the facts don't fit you, you pretend that the facts are something else and you call the real facts fake news. That's pretty much what he's doing. He's completely lost.
So, but going back to the point at hand where he says it's a direct assault on the First Amendment, this seems to be a contention, especially with not just Josh Hawley, but the aforementioned President Donald Trump, who will no longer be president by the time this drops. In fact, I think that's what we're going to do, honey. We're going to drop this on Inauguration Day. I think that's appropriate. But
sounds like a good celebratory thing.
Yeah, but the main thing is that they say it's he says it's a direct assault on the First Amendment. And people were also saying that about when Donald Trump was censured on Facebook and on Twitter and Twitch and all these other platforms. But really, what is the assault on the First Amendment according to Josh Hawley and Simon & Schuster? Yeah, what's his argument?
Well, his argument is completely wrong. I mean, you heard Pip read the First Amendment. It says Congress shall make no law abridging
that's
speech.
The first word.
Congress shall do it. The First Amendment prohibits the government from taking away your freedom of speech. It doesn't give you a forum for your speech. You don't have the right to have your book published. You don't have the right to have the newspaper print your news article. You don't have the right to have a TV show. Those are forums that other people provide, and they can cut them out if they think you're going to hurt their business or if you say something they don't want. That's not a First Amendment violation. The government is not censoring him in the absolute slightest. He can say whatever the hell he wants, and there's probably going to be some smaller publisher out there who'll glad to take the book, that publishes Rush Limbaugh or something.
It's funny. It's funny you should say that. Too. Go ahead. I
was saying the left sometimes misses that too, because you will hear liberals say, "Oh, my First Amendment rights are being violated because they cut me off of Twitter for what I said." No, you're not. Twitter has its rules. No shirt, no shoes, no service. Twitter can have its own little rules, and if you don't obey their rules, tough. I think it's funny too the way some conservatives are now saying, "Well, we need to break up the monopoly of Twitter and Facebook." And, oh, now you're in favor of breaking up monopolies. Yes.
Because remember when the whole net neutrality thing was going on, they were going, "Wait, you know what? Let them take care of themselves. Let them take care of themselves. It'll be fine. The market will be fine." But what I find even funnier is how I'd love to get opinions from not just you, Michael, but also from you as well, Pip. Is how much of
Sorry, I'm just staring at this.
I know you are. I know. And so how much of Josh Hawley's ire is less about my voice is now being denied.
Voices are being silenced.
Conservative voices are being silenced versus, wait, you mean I'm not going to get the sweet money that I was going to get from Simon & Schuster? Because yes, he could go, hell, if he wanted to, he could go out and do what Pip and I have done and self-pub it. And based on his name alone, he would make money. He wouldn't make as much money if he's with Simon & Schuster. And there's also the problem of he would have to promote said book or hire someone to promote said book, which means he has to spend more money. So how much of this, Michael, from where you're sitting, from a legal perspective, would you say, and from a constitutional lawyer, because guess what? You got something in common with Mr. Hawley. I mean, how much of that is really about losing the advance?
I think a lot of it is, but I think it's also he's playing to his base, which is what a lot of these people do. And a lot of these Republican politicians will say these things, and then there have been reporters say that, when they're in private, they disavow everything, say, I'm just saying it because that's what they want me to say so I can get reelected. I think a lot of it is that kind of cynical attitude he's thinking. It's getting him publicity. We're talking about him. That's good, right? That's what he wants. And it's a publicity thing to get people on his side. He wants to be the next Trump, basically. He wants to run for president someday, and he thinks he's going to take over Trump's, crazy people are going to vote for him. And he's appealing to them. And I suppose if that's your strategy, then it works. But as far as any legal justification, no, it's completely out in left field. He doesn't have a foot to stand on.
I always wonder, when I saw it, I was like, does that mean that Simon and Schuster had some sort of morality clause, or there must be some clause in there where if
I would assume
somebody or something.
Yeah, that would be the contractual thing that I think those big publishers must have, in the same way that, if you work for a television show and you start saying racist things, they can fire you, and you can't say no. And I'm sure in their contract it says, look, if you're going to make us look bad, we have the right to fire you. Just like a boss can fire you if you're spouting, racist nonsense in a store. Well, sorry, you're out of here. Yes, you have the right to say it. You just don't have the right to say it here.
So let's talk about that. When people are saying my rights are being oppressed, particularly writers, let's focus on writers. Let's say that writers are feeling like they're being oppressed if they, case in point, mutual friend of all three of us, sometimes I call him the patron saint of the show, Chuck Wendig. On the left leaning side of the scale, we got Chuck Wendig, who I had to actually correct a friend of mine. A friend of mine said, "Oh, Chuck Wendig?" I was like, "Yeah," and he goes, "What was that business with Marvel letting them loose because of his Twitter account?" And I said, "Okay, first off, you need to stop right there, because I am friends with Chuck. There was something else going on at this point." But the thing is, they were using, it feels like Disney, Marvel were using that morality clause, as you were talking about, to say to Chuck, look, we need to let you go. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about that. What can you tell us, Michael, about morality clauses? What are those in contracts, and why do writers need to stay very aware of them?
Basically, you have provisions in most contracts that say that, it's we're giving you something, we're going to print your book, but in exchange, you have to have the right presence. If we turn out that if we learn that you're a serial killer, well, we're going to cancel your book. Sorry. There are things you have to do that won't harm the image that they want to have. And I use that. There's other examples of actors who have done commercials who suddenly get fired when they say some joke that doesn't get approved by, the people who are hiring them. They want you to look good to make them look good. And like I said, it's not that much similar than if you get a job and they tell you you can't come in wearing shorts and t-shirts, and you can't talk religion to the patrons who are coming in. It's not an unreasonable request, because it's the image that they're trying to carry. I don't necessarily agree that. I don't know enough about the Disney Chuck Wendig situation.
Well, all three of us don't. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So I don't know if there was something else going on there. But. I assume if there was an issue, Chuck could have sued them, and he didn't. And sometimes that's better, because then it just causes hard feelings elsewhere.
Right.
And he's still publishing, and he's still having huge, big hits. And I liked his last book a lot.
So he's still got his career. But he didn't go around going, liberal voices are being silenced.
Correct. Yeah, he didn't go worrying and bitching about it. That seems to, that's good. He didn't say my First Amendment rights are being violated, because he understands that they weren't.
Right.
Yeah.
And but let's talk a little bit then about social media, since that was something that was brought up on Facebook. And by the way, I want to say real quick for anybody in chat, I've got a very spirited thing happening in chat right now, because I got international folks going, I don't really understand how the First Amendment works, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, and so is Pip. But yeah, how to argue? There you go. There's a book. The guy who wrote the book on this. He didn't write he's old, but he didn't write the Constitution. He's not that old. But
was he in the room where it happened?
He might have been in the room where it happens. The room where it happens. But I did want to say though, let's talk about if any of you have questions though in chat, feel free to go on ahead and chime in chat. We'd love to hear from you. But let's turn for a bit towards social media. It seems the book title again, DJ 80, is how to argue the Constitution with a conservative. It's Michael A. Ventrella, and that is our guest today on the show. And there it is. You can find that on Amazon.com, or you can find it on Michael's website, which is
michaelaventrella.com.
All right. So anyway, going back to social media, and that's where people are going. Well, are social media considered publishers? No, they are just a different kind of service.
I don't see anything in this bit of the this amendment that talks about the socials.
The socials, but let's
right to Instagram.
Right, the right to get your gram on. But here's a question for you, Michael, concerning the First Amendment and concerning Twitter. I hold all of these, as much as I love these platforms, I also hold them responsible. Why did it take an act of insurrection to finally say, "Hi-ho, bro, maybe we need to start enforcing our terms of service"? Why did it take so long?
I don't know if I can answer that. I mean, they should have been before. Seriously, I don't know why they made that decision. It's kind of frustrating and sad because we certainly would complain about these things before. At least, they went over to Parler for a while when there was some crackdown. That was like a month or two before,
right.
Maybe more than that. It seems like it happened very recently. So they were starting to crack down at that point. There's got to be some sort of provisions. Here's something that sort of ties into that. And this is something that I think a lot of people get frustrated, and I get frustrated as when they say conservatives are saying they're silencing conservative voices. Well, no, they're not. If you want to start a web page, and if you want to join on there and you want to talk about lowering taxes or whether the United States should get out of the UN or whether we should have equal protection, fine. Nobody is going to stop you. What they're stopping are calls for violence. They're stopping hatred. They're stopping racist posts that are causing violence. They are not. If you consider that conservative voices, then I think
that's a worry.
Yeah, it says something a lot about you.
Well, the funny thing is, I just want to say real quick, chat, I've never seen Michael this worked up, and I kind of dig it.
Seriously,
it is extremely frustrating.
People, if these same conservatives saw Muslim extremists posting the exact same thing, they would be more than happy to shut it down, and they would be screaming for everyone to go to jail. But because it's them, they don't see it that way. Well, if you're calling for violence, yeah, they should shut you down.
And this comes back to something else that I've been seeing about how I've been seeing now some of the people who have been arrested. People have been arrested for the actions that happened. They've been saying things like, "Well, I was just expressing my freedom my freedom to protest," right? And that's okay. We're saying you can do that, but I mean, I think about I'm approaching this from a parental point of view. Never once when I had to when Pip and I had to teach our daughter consequences, she was like, "But I was speaking up for myself." We're like, "And so you should." But so how much of this, Michael, is people not liking their consequences? Whether it's Josh Hawley, whether it's the people that were, whether it was the QAnon shaman, that idiot, or the Texas realtor that flew out on a private jet, literally posed in front of the broken glass of the freaking Senate building and doing the whole YOLO and all this, and she's saying, "I expect a pardon from the president."
Well, a lot of this is white privilege, and we can go into a separate.
That's a different story altogether. But I want to focus more about the consequences of this.
I will point out that the First Amendment says very clearly the right of the people peacefully to assemble. It's right in there. It's in the very First Amendment. Peacefully assembling is the key. They were not peacefully assembling. No one would stop them from. If they wanted to stand there and hold their signs up, they could do that all they want. If they wanted to yell and scream, they can do that too. It's the peaceful part that they broke.
So
that is not protected by the Constitution, is the point.
Right.
Very clearly, just by reading the words.
So as we said earlier, Michael is a constitutional law expert. I studied I am not by any stretch a constitutional expert, but I have studied the First Amendment, and I feel like I know it, and I know enough about I know enough to be dangerous with it. But Nerd Girl's got what was that?
I just want to give a quick disclaimer.
Go ahead.
I am a constitutional expert compared to the average person. There are college professors who do nothing but this for a living who are much more of an expert than I am. So please don't think that I am Lawrence Tribe from Harvard, University.
Wasn't the former president Barack Obama a constitutional?
He certainly was. I'm sure he's better at it than I am. He taught it. He taught at the law school level, if I'm not mistaken. So he's a little more.
But just so you know, Michael Ventrella is the practicing lawyer between the three of us that you're watching right now. So that's why we are leaning on him as our expert of the moment. But Nerd Girl's got a great question for you. Do you think it's a failure of schooling that people get freedom of speech so wrong, or is it deliberate misunderstanding and misinterpretation?
Oh, I don't know if it's schooling as much as it's family, maybe the way you're raised. I think a lot of people who are very, very conservative come from very conservative rural families, and I'm not sure if the schooling has a lot to do with it, because I went to the same school as a bunch of other kids in Richmond and it was a very conservative area at the time out in Chesterfield. And when I see them on Facebook, they are completely crazy, and they're all Trump supporters. I'm the exact opposite, and we went to the same school.
Dude, I know the individual you're talking about. I marched with her at Monacan High School, and I swear to God, I spent 15 minutes at her when I heard that she was running for a higher seat in office. All these Monacan alumni basically said, "Hey T, our Monacan, let's do Monacan proud." I said, "Sure thing." I went to her page and I was like, "Oh hell no!" And Pip can tell you, I did a Silkwood shower that night because man, that was some terrifying BS that I saw in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if education would change much. I think it's an attitude that has to change. And in America, the main problem I think is mostly urban versus rural in many ways. I think a lot of people who are more urban see many different people with many different viewpoints, different religions, different sexual identities, and they are a little more accepting because when they're your neighbor, you sort of accept it more.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're rural, all those red parts of the country, it's almost all completely white Protestant. They never see anyone saying something different, and they never question their own beliefs. And if you look at a map, you'll see that even in red states like Texas, there are big blue areas where the big cities are, and here in Pennsylvania, even though we voted blue, there's huge red districts where it's just nothing but countries and cows. I think that's the big difference in our country right now. It's that, but that's on a different. Yeah,
well,
that's sort of
I mean, but turning it back to writers, the question really does remain. When let's say a morality clause does kick in. Let's say that because let's say Pip and I have very liberal leaning thoughts about politics and about the way things are run. The big question remains. But then Pip and I are both practicing Episcopalians, and let's say we're doing a book, and someone says. A major publisher steps in and goes, "Look, we know that you guys are are practicing Christians, and we're okay with that. But we really don't like the fact that you're not leaning towards the right. So because of your left leaning ways, we're cutting you loose from this lucrative contract." We really don't have a legal ground to stand on, do we? Especially at least for the First Amendment. At least for the First Amendment.
First Amendment, no. Contractually, you might, because it depends on what the contract says. If this is something that you're not, if no one knows about it, then you probably have a really good argument. If you're posting things all over the internet and they're afraid that it's going to hurt their image, that's different. In other words, if you're a tremendous racist but you keep it quiet in your home, and they don't know about it, and no one knows it, you could probably get away with a lot.
Probably.
If they come to your house and say, "Oh, we know you're a racist. I heard you say something racist. I'm going to cancel it," even though the average person doesn't know it, well, you might have an argument contractually, but not First Amendment laws. No. If you see the distinction I'm making there.
And then the word Congress at the front of this.
Pip has really latched onto that. You notice that, Chad?
I'm just saying the first word.
That is the thing that people just get wrong so much, and it's so frustrating, though. Can I point out one other thing that people get wrong? Writers get wrong sometimes, and I've been on panels like this. I've had writers say, "I submitted a story to this magazine, and it was too sexy for them, and I was censored."
Oh, for Pete's sake.
No, you were edited. There's a difference between censoring and editing. Just because someone doesn't publish your story doesn't mean you were censored because it was too salacious or whatever. So people have to
send it to the wrong place.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk a little bit about that as well. Again, since we're talking about freedom of speech and freedom of the press and all these things, when people when you hear authors punch that button of "I was censored," what is the line between censorship and competent editing?
Technically, censorship can only be done by the government. Okay?
Boom.
Boom. That's the way you look at it.
Hail to the king,
you
baby.
have something that's being published and the editor says, "I'm not going to publish it unless you change this and take care of that," that's editing. If you have a TV show and they cut out all the dirty parts, that's editing, because the government is not forcing you to do that necessarily. So to me, censorship is what governments do.
So if a government, say if Josh got his book published, and then the government came in and said, you can't publish Josh's book, take it out of the bookstores and burn it or whatever, that would be.
So yeah, or during if you know anything about the Pentagon Papers back during Watergate, and there was just a recent movie about it that was really good. The government was saying you can't publish this. That was censorship.
That was the Post. That was the movie, The Post. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And
the
they
Post.
took it to the Times, and they took it here, and they just kept taking it everywhere, and all the papers were challenging it. And the Supreme Court came down and said, "Government, you can't do that. That's censorship. You don't have the right to censor this information."
Well, that was what was going on with the now about to end administration. I mean, with the Trump administration, they were trying to stop. Was it Mary Trump's tell-all book?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they did that. They were just like, yeah, you can't publish that. And Mary was like, that's a violation of my First Amendment rights.
Absolutely.
Because Congress shall make no law. I mean, but then
that's quite funny, right?
Now, mind you, there's a whole bunch of exceptions to that. And if you read my book, you'll see, for example, you can't publish troop movements or secrets or spy names and things like that. There's exceptions to the First Amendment. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Those kind of things.
Yeah. Of course.
Right, but this, but just because you don't like it doesn't mean the government can censor it.
But turning it back over to social media, the thing that has been frustrating for me as a social media professional, and when people say, well, you're not a constitutional lawyer. No, I'm not. I'm not a constitutional lawyer. And yeah, I took a class on the First Amendment, but I am published in understanding how social media works. And there's a thing that all these platforms have: Facebook, Twitter, etc. They're called terms of service. It's those things that you don't read.
you click through.
Yeah, and you just click on through it, And in that terms of service, they say, look, at any time we can go on ahead, and if we really feel like there is a problem with what you're saying, we can go on ahead and say, yeah, you're out of the pool. I mean, Michael, is there anything that or any situation where Facebook or Twitter or Twitch or even TikTok that they can do, that they can say, yeah, we're not allowing you to post this, and it's a violation of someone's First Amendment rights?
The only thing I can think of is if they were doing it in a discriminatory manner. If they said we're not gonna let any black people post here, for that or that sort of thing, because then it's not a violation of First Amendment, it's a equal rights violation.
Right.
But generally speaking, if they say no, we're not going to publish things that are like this, as long as they're applying it equally to everybody, then it should be fine.
But it is still not a violation of the First Amendment.
Oh, no, never, no. And if you don't like it, you can start your own. Of course, we're back to the monopoly question again. But the point is there's an infinite number of services. You can have an infinite number of web pages. You can have an infinite number, technically, of all these things. That's why I just wrote a blog post about the fairness doctrine. Some people saying we need to bring the fairness doctrine back, and I said, well, that only applied to over-the-air broadcasters. It never applied to newspapers. It never applied to the internet. It never applied to any of this stuff. So it really wouldn't affect anything, except for a couple of small TV stations.
But it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, with Howley being less upset that his book was being canceled and it was a First Amendment violation, versus I just lost that sweet money from Simon and Schuster. The real problem here wasn't that Parler was shut down. It was that Facebook and its reach were taken away from the folks who'd started Parler. Then they got all that press from Parler, and then Parler started to become the conservative Facebook, which everybody loved, and then Parler shut down. And it's less about, at least from where I'm sitting, it's less about well, then let's start our own platform, versus we lost the reach of Facebook and Twitter. That kind of sucks. So we got to build our own, and there's a lot of work with that. That's a lot of work.
They did it to itself.
Yeah.
Like I said, if they had just talked about conservative issues, no one would have complained. But they were talking about violence. They were talking about,
Right.
race. They were talking about
I'll go you one better.
trying to have insurrection against the United States. Yeah, they should be shut down.
I'll go you one better. In the next book that Mike is going to buy, which is this book, Discord for Dummies.
I need to know that, yes.
So I actually cite an incident that all these alt-right servers were high-fiving and talking about what a great job everybody was doing in Charlottesville. Then suddenly they logged on and their servers were shut down. They contacted Discord and they said, my server's shut down. They go, yeah, because we saw what you were posting. And they said, you can't do that. That's against my First Amendment. So they go, no, you can't do that because that's against our terms of service. And suddenly all these alt-right voices went silent. And they were like, we're afraid to say anything on Discord now because we don't want to lose our, because they were also using that as games comms for Call of Duty. No, I don't know that for sure. I'm just throwing it out there as an example.
I heard somebody say that, people are saying, no, I heard someone make the comparison. They said it's like, you're running a bar and somebody comes in and starts screaming about, I'm going to go across the road and start shooting up the bank or whatever. You are entitled to eject them out of your bar because you don't want violence to be incited in your establishment.
Right.
Is that
exactly?
Is that correct, Michael?
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, no shirt, no shoes, no service. You can set limits on what your business is. As long as it's not applied discriminatorily, you're fine. And that was the issue, of course, with some of these conservatives wanted to not give gay people cakes, and I said, no,
right.
As long as you provide a cake and they want a cake exactly like you would give a straight couple, then you can't do that anymore. So that, it's a separate issue, but they can have policies as long as it's the same policy. If they say we're not going to, if a gay couple comes in and says we want a cake shaped like a penis, and they say we won't even make that for straight couples, then that's fine.
Right.
Right. But if they've done it for straight couples, then they got to do it for the gay couple too. That kind of thing.
So, so some closing thoughts on this, Michael, on this particular topic before we get to. I think it's the first time we've ever done a Writers Off the Clock with a special guest. But Michael, what would be your closing thoughts on where, apart from your book, which you're more than welcome to plug, where else would you send people for insight on this topic about the First Amendment and how it applies to writing and writing contracts?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure if I have a good answer. Yeah, I think writers beware and places like that sometimes have little links where you can go and check out, articles about your rights as a writer.
Always get someone to look it over, right?
Well, always, it's always a good idea to get people to read over.
Provided that it's a lawyer that.
I got stuck in a contract I should have had.
Yeah.
Oh no, no. If you're going to get a contract from a publisher, don't read it yourself. Get a lawyer. It's worth it.
A contract lawyer. A contract lawyer.
Yeah, get a lawyer who specializes in contract, not a criminal defense lawyer like me. I even had people look at I had other lawyers look at my contracts, because too often people think that contracts are a gift from the publisher, and they're not. It's supposed to be an equal meeting of minds.
Right.
They want something from you, you want something from them. There should be a give and take. I've been able to negotiate better terms by doing that, and every author should do that. And if you don't like the morality clause, you don't sign it. You say, can we change that? Can we make it very clear that as long as it's something I say privately on my own Facebook, it's okay? I don't know. Maybe you can come up with some sort of negotiation.
People might be looking into that right now. I'm just saying.
I also want to throw a quick shout out because Pip got me turned on to this guy, the Legal Eagle, on YouTube. He has got a whole series of videos about the Trump administration, about the First Amendment, about how none of this applies. I think he actually took a few shots at Josh Hawley as well. He's a terrific resource. But again, I'll be the first one to say it. Michael may not, but I'll be the first one to say it. If you want a good reference point for arguments about the Constitution and about the First Amendment, talk to the author of this particular book, the book being How to Argue the Constitution with a Conservative. It's by Michael A. Ventrella. You can find him on Amazon.com or his website, Michael A. Ventrella, or just Michael Ventrella?
Either one. They both
.com.
I have both names.
There's not too many Mike Ventrellas, just one.
I was able to grab it first. I can tell you a quick story if you have time. About that.
Absolutely. Go for it.
I was able to grab Michael Ventrella, Mike Ventrella, and Michael A. Ventrella because I have a unique enough name. So that was very good. But it turns out that about 5 years ago, there's a TV show called The World's Biggest Loser, where they get really obese people to lose weight. And the winner of that show one time was Michael Ventrella. So now, Michael Ventrella, you'll see Michael Ventrella, World's Biggest Loser. Fortunately, but I've had people come to my webpage thinking I'm him, which is funny, So anyway,
there you go. All right, give us a moment here for segue music and for editing. So this is the point of our show where we talk about writers off the clock, where we talk about what we're doing when we're not writing and when we're not streaming and we're not gaming, or well, sometimes we do talk. Pip and I do talk about when we're gaming, but we're bringing Michael into this discussion because I saw his thoughts on this show, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a fun conversation between Pip and Michael.
Considering we're all of the older generation, this will be interesting.
This will be even more interesting. We're going to talk about WandaVision. Let me tell you something, chat. I freaking ate this up like foie gras. I loved WandaVision. I want to get Pip's perspective on it because now I don't know how much of the classic sitcoms New Zealand got. So I want to hear
we got them all.
Okay, so Pip,
we got them all.
What were your thoughts on WandaVision?
Well, I did feel like I was watching like a Bewitched episode. My mum liked Bewitched a lot. And I was
I can see your mom getting into Bewitched. Oh, those bloody Americans.
Look at them. They're so strange.
That's why your mom wanted me to keep trying to twinkle my nose. Oh, I get it. Oh, it makes sense.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that. My perspective was I could see that they're trying to do something completely different, which I usually like when people try something different. And I mean, the MCU's been around for a while now. Maybe people are ready for something that's not, big villain turns up.
19 years. Actually, no, it'll be 20 years this year.
Oh, Lord.
2001 was when Iron Man dropped.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, was it 2001? Or, oh, wait, if it isn't 2001, I'll look it up. So keep going, hon. So your thoughts on WandaVision again?
I enjoyed it. I could see that some people might be like, when is something going to happen? But I was enjoying the aesthetic of it, and Paul Bettany is just fun. I was just enjoying occupying this sort of actor space where they were pretending to be Dick Van Dyke and was it Samantha? It was
Samantha, Bewitched.
Yeah. So, and I also enjoyed the aspect ratio. So maybe I was just caught up in the interesting vintage look of it.
So I stand corrected, everybody. Yes, Phased Out is absolutely right, and I just looked it up on Google. It was 2008, so it's been 13 years of the MCU. Now, but now, Michael, you were not as equally charmed by WandaVision, were you?
I was for the first 10 minutes or so. I thought this is I like this. I grew up with these things. I was a kid watching these things when they were actually on. I didn't watch the reruns. I saw the original ones. I was more into I Dream of Jeannie, but that was mostly because of Barbara Eden.
Yeah.
She was very influential on my upbringing. Right. Yes, but
we're not going to give out any spoilers. Phased Out. We're not going to give out any spoilers. I assure you that. We're just talking about impressions. So no spoilers.
She's a genie. She lives in a bottle.
No, not spoilers of I Dream of Jeannie, baby. Not spoilers of I Dream of Jeannie.
The point was that they were trying to create it, and it was sort of a satire, but it wasn't funny enough to be an actual satire because it was an homage to those kind of shows more than it was a satire. And I kept waiting for something to happen, and that was the problem because I said, I got it. Get on with it. That was the problem I had with it. And so my wife and I started fast forwarding. Whenever we saw something unusual, we'd stop and go, oh, what's happening there? I'm not going to say it for spoilers purposes, but we saw the clues, but we felt like we had to okay, yeah, now they're doing sitcom again for 10 minutes. I got it. Get me to the clues. I think it would have been a much better show if they had taken those 2 half-hour episodes, squinched it down to 1/2 an hour, or maybe even less until we get to the plot. I mean, obviously, I think episode 3 next week is going to jump into something. It better. I plan on watching it. I'm not giving up on the show. Right. But if it's another 1/2 hour of a sitcom, well, I'll watch a real sitcom. That was my attitude.
So here was my question. When you were talking about the clues, Did you happen to notice the clue in the first in the toaster commercial?
Yes, yes. I'm not going to
It's
say
subtle,
anything to spoil it.
right? It's subtle.
And
It's
there's also
subtle.
a watch commercial and a couple other things. And I'm sure there were clues I missed because I'm not a Marvel fanatic,
Right.
if you know what I mean.
Right.
You know, I watch the movies, but I'm not someone who knows everything backwards and forwards like I might know for Harry Potter, which I tend to know a lot better.
Right.
You know, we have our own little things that we're into. But you know, certainly I could see certain references that made sense. And someone told me there was another reference I read that I've never even heard of. I mean,
I saw like a breakdown of it was where it was like the house number referenced this, and did you see? And I'm like,
and you see,
yeah, it's
and,
a little bit too obscure for me.
yeah.
I think maybe.
yeah,
and I agree. But that's the other thing that I really enjoy about what Marvel has done, not just in their MCU stuff, but also, not just in what we've seen in these 2 episodes of WandaVision, but keep in mind this is the first we've seen of MCU for television.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's made a great
That's
first
true,
impression
yeah.
because we got Falcon and Winter Soldier coming later, and I love
Loki.
and Loki and all this stuff, and especially with some of the deep pulls they did with the Mandalorian. I mean, they've been specializing in the deep pulls, and it's something that I think that not just actors, but actors and writers are starting to realize. At one time, it was like, yeah, you want to do movies because you got bigger budgets in movies and you can do stuff you can't do in television. I really believe that has become a myth now because the other thing that Pip and I watched, and I don't mean to derail you, Mike, but just track with me. This shouldn't come as any surprise. Mike and I know each other for years. But there was another show that we mainlined called Snowpiercer. Now, I don't know if you've seen the movie, Michael, of Snowpiercer. It's one of Pip's and my favorite movies. Snowpiercer is a brilliant film. The show is unreal because it took all these little nuggets that you got introduced to because you only have like 2.5 hours for a movie, and they just ran with them in Snowpiercer. And plus, you got to see Daveed Diggs shirtless, and you find out something. Thomas Jefferson, he does P90X. Anyway, so that's but anyway, going back to it, that's what I feel like we're getting with WandaVision. You're absolutely right, Michael. I think that the first episode did a lot of setup. They did a lot of setup, but the second episode, it seemed like they loosened up just a little bit.
There was a lot more in the second episode. I will agree. I guess my point was it was more of a show for the Marvel fanatics than it was for me as a side person who watches the movies and enjoys them, but I don't really, I'll watch the movies and someone will come in and I'll go, I know that guy. Where have I seen him before?
Right.
And I don't remember because I don't watch them over and over and over again. So I think this was a show for the people who like to watch those things over and over and over again. And because I didn't get the stuff, and I was going, I know something's going on here, but I'm not getting it, so that's why I didn't enjoy it as much.
I enjoyed the
for me, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I enjoyed the cutesy things that they were doing. Like I was like, ooh, it really does look like it was filmed. And then apparently I went back and I was reading an article about it, and it said that they actually used vintage lenses and they all dressed up in 50s clothes when they
it was obviously sets, and it was done. It really looked like a 60s show, and the cartoons between,
And Pip told me that the actual producers of WandaVision contacted Dick Van Dyke and actually had him do some consulting. And I'm just like, okay, this is now official, just flat out official. Dick Van Dyke is the coolest mother effer on the planet because he's done the world's worst British accent. He was in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. He
danced on a table when he was in his 90s.
And now Marvel Studios chat are going to Dick Van Dyke for advice. You can't get any cooler than that. And on that note, let's segue to the end. So, Michael, thank you very much for bringing not only your legal expertise, but also your nerdy expertise to tonight. This is probably one of the, I really will rank this up as one of my favorite shows we've ever done, because it wasn't just me and Pip pontificating on things we might know. We actually brought in someone that's written a book about how to do this. So, Michael, one last time, where can people find you online, and what's the book that you would recommend that they start with you?
Sure. MichaelAventrella.com is my webpage with links to all my books and everything. My most recent novel is Big Stick, Steampunk Adventure, that Pip says is very good. Pip says a great fun ride. And of course, the Constitution book that we were talking about, How to Argue the Constitution with a Conservative, with lots of art by Darren Bell. If you get the Kindle version, the cartoons are even in color, so that's kind of nice.
Oh, great, cool, very cool, very cool. And chat, if you want to find out more about what we do here at the Shared Desk, as always, you can join our writing streams, which we've been doing started since November, and people have been really digging the writing streams. So yeah, please, by all means, join us there, and join us for other streams that we do, like Philippa's Freaky Friday, or any of the streams that I do at this URL, twitch.tv/the-T-Monster. You can find out more about what I do at tmorris.com, and Pip, they can find you at
pjvalentine.com.
And as always, you can subscribe to us on Amazon. Amazon should be happening soon, but Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, and of course Apple Podcasts at theshareddesk.com. So on behalf of Michael, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Enjoy the ride.
Catch you later.
See you again. Someday we'll see in person again.
Yes.
Yes.
And we're clear. That's it. Episode 107, everybody. Michael,
Well,
I cannot tell you how much fun it was having you on here. Having the legal perspective on this was absolutely essential. That was fantastic.
Whenever you give me a chance to rant, I will go.
I swear to God, chat. How long have you and I known each other, Michael? It's been what? Well over a decade, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, we met at a RavenCon, I think, when you were still doing Moravi. Was your first? It was your first book. No, it was the the
Billy Battings.
Billy
Battings. Okay,
that's the book I bought from you. So whenever that book came out is when we met.
So we're talking
15 years then, right?
about a good 15. Yeah. About a good 15.
It was before my first novel came out.
Yeah, yes. but so we've nerded out before. We've done all that. But I've never seen Michael get so worked up about this. But no, this is how, but chat, no lie, you've seen me on chat get riled up about the First Amendment, because I'm like, that's not what this is. But it's even more frustrating to think that they're just courting the crazy vote, which I don't quite get. Freud.dev with the raid. Thank you very much, buddy. Thank you for being here.
Hey, Freud.
You're going to have to catch up on this episode, Freud. Just had my friend here, working lawyer and author of How to Argue the Constitution with a Conservative. We just finished talking about the First Amendment.
I feel like we all need right now.
That's a book I think we all need. By the way, real quick, I do need to say thank you very much, Freud, for the raid. DJ80, thank you for resubbing for 2 months. Plurge Trooper, thank you very much for the follow. And again, DJ80, thank you for the host. Whew, that's a lot of stuff happening.
That's a lot going on our
stream. A lot going on in a stream that's only been on for not even an hour. Not even an hour. That's awesome. But yeah, we didn't spoil anything from WandaVision, but that was a fun little discussion to have as well.
A little side trip down the Black and White Alley.
I'm a sucker for those visuals, though. The visuals of it.
Oh, they did a great job.
Yeah.
It was the story. It was. I just felt like get on with it, from someone.
The last time I remember being that fascinated with visuals, though, was there's a very it's a tough watch, but I think it's a very underrated role for Ben Affleck, or Batfleck, if you will. It was called Hollywoodland, and it was a movie where he played George Reeves.
That's right. That was a really good, depressing.
It's a tough watch. It's a tough watch. But there was a moment where they were like doing the filming of Superman. They were doing the filming of Superman, and at one point, they were showing the camera's perspective, and it was that thing that George Reeves would always do. He would lean in. And he goes, "Well, it's a good thing we avoided problems, thanks to Superman." And then he'd wink. And for a moment, I didn't see Affleck. It was George Reeves. And I'm like, whoa. And it was because they positioned Jimmy Olsen just right. They positioned Noel Neal just right. And then there was Affleck. And I'm like, wow, that was good. And any of the stuff where they were on the set of Superman, I'm like, wow, they nailed it. And so I think that's one of the things I was eating up was that. I mean, you can't get more nostalgic too than Bewitched. I mean, so yeah, good times, everybody.
the whole. Anyway, I won't say anything.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Shut up.
But listen, Michael, thanks again for joining us on the show. We really do appreciate it. Have a
All
good
right.
night.
Good night, everybody.
Miss
Good night.
your face. Miss you.
But anyway, yeah, baby. I thought that was a good show. I thought that was
Yeah.
good. This is the part, chat,
I'm
where
looking at this and I'm like, I just maybe it's I just don't see there. It says that
I know,
Yeah.
I know, baby, I know. So
the
for
first word. It's
Freud-
the first word.
Roy, you're
It
gonna
says
want.
Congress. The
We-
first word.
So Freud, we had Pip, the resident alien, if you will. we had Pip basically read the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. Not only did it sound sexy AF, she's like, but it says it's right there. It says Congress. I'm like, yes, I know, baby. I know. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. But
I don't understand you, America. I've
Some-
been here 10 years and I still don't understand you.
America. And Kit's like, physical Congress. I know, physical Congress, Kit. But yeah, chat, for anybody who came in late, Europe doesn't understand it either. I mean, for those of you who came in late, we invited a lawyer and constitutional good guy, and smart on it too, Michael A. Ventrella. And this episode, we've decided we're going to drop this episode on Inauguration Day. We think that's kind of
Yes.
appropriate.
But we're gonna have some bubbles, and we're gonna drink. You're gonna drink a beer.
I'm finally, but don't worry, Freud. You can go on ahead and catch this in replay, of course. I am going to pop as soon as I hear, as soon as I hear the words, we'll that he is taking on the office and the duties of the President of the United States. That's when I'm popping a beer.
Pop it.
I'm popping a beer.
Pop it.
And the beer that I'm popping is going to be, in fact, it's a beer called Dump the Trump. It's from Behemoth Breweries in New Zealand, and it's an American IPA.
We brought it back at the beginning of
2018. Oh no,
2019.
2019, because we were all furloughed. We were all furloughed at the time.
Remember that, Froy?
Remember that, Froy? That's when I picked up that beer. It was 2019, and I've been sitting on it.
Praying that it wouldn't sit in the fridge for another 4 years.
I'm shocked to see that not only Idiocracy but also Team America: World Police are not movies but are prophetic visions. I mean, it is a little cray-cray, but the good news is that cooler heads will be prevailing, and maybe, knock wood, maybe this was a wake-up call that people need to realize that yeah, maybe, just maybe, when he was running for office and he said, yeah, do what you want, I'll pay your court costs. He's not going to do that. He's not even paying his own lawyer. He's not even paying his own lawyer.
What about the quote where it was like, what do you have to lose? Turns out quite a lot.
Quite a lot. Hey, Benedict. But yeah, chat.
Make sure Freud knows to be safe.
Yeah, Freud.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Stay safe, buddy. Stay safe.
We wanna when we all have our jibby jabs, we wanna have like you and
and Sasha come back
Sasha
over.
over.
Yeah.
We'll
drink a lot of rum. I'll be putting.
Yeah. We
we'll-
still have some rum left.
we
but
still
not
have-
enough to get us through.
We have enough to get us through.
We have enough. We have just enough to get us
Just
through.
enough. But there'll be a fire pit going. It'll be all good. And we can designate like some time to practice our Spanish, which I just realized.
We have.
I think I've been demoted. I just realized I didn't do my lesson today.
demoted?
I think I got demoted.
God.
I will have to work hard again to get back up into the
You have
into
to
the
get
league.
back in the Diamond League, baby.
Back up in the Diamond League. Yep. Hang on. Let me just double check.
Ooh, I'm still at 14. You might have half an hour.
Where am I? I'm about to find out. I was slacking this week anyway. No,
But we have been good.
oh wait, I have an hour. I have an hour. An
I
hour.
guess we know what he's doing, Froy. He's
Guess what I'm doing for the
practicing
next
as
hour.
I go.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Practicar tu español.
See. So I will go on. Pues ponte. I hear you. I understood that reference. Okay, everybody. Thank you again. It's been a pleasure. I hope you'll enjoy this episode of The Shared Desk, which will be dropping on Inauguration Day. DJ, I am using, with my wife and my daughter upstairs, we're using Duolingo. And it's a terrific app. It's a terrific app. But anyway, thank you all very much for joining us. Just going to go on ahead and let AutoHost do its thing. But thank you very much for coming in, everybody. Stay safe. And we love you. Peace.